I did then, all this time I was studying for the MD. In those days you could do the MD by examination. Now you have to do a thesis only. Those days you could do thesis or exam. So I chose to do the exam. I got the exam then, and then I was appointed. There was no such thing in those days as county physicians. The county surgeon was in most of the counties, and the hospital was usually called the surgical hospital.
In Ireland?
In Ireland. And the surgeon usually had a house in the grounds of the hospital. And he ran the hospital. The local GP was the physician. He'd visit the hospital, and he'd do midwifery as well. If he had any abnormalities that he couldn't deal with in pregnancy, he would consult with the surgeon, and if it was an advanced pregnancy, the surgeon would do an operation.
Section or section or whatever you had to do.
That's right. Otherwise, they'd send the patient to Dublin. So the first internationally qualified physician appointed was in Limerick, and the next one was in Castlebar, in Sligo, Leitrim, and South Donegal. And I, as in answer to an emergency advertisement, I was appointed there for 6 months. So from there, that was a very good post, looking after a county hospital that was being brought into modern standards. He had been very good, obviously, at the beginning in bringing that hospital up. And so it had a surgeon, it had an obstetrician, and it had a physician, all of international qualified training.
This was in
Sligo.
Sligo Hospital.
And we covered Leitrim as well, and South Donegal. And after that then, Johnny Kennedy used to run the laboratory from Galway, and he'd visit there once a month and make sure the laboratory was running well. And one of the technicians from Galway was assigned to live in Sligo, and he would run the laboratory. So then Johnny told me that for the first time the regional the hospital in Dublin, in Galway, that they were closing the old central hospital, and they were opening a new hospital that had been building for the last 4 years. So he said they're applying, for the first time we've been sanctioned to have a medical registrar. So I suggest you apply for it. So I applied for it and I got it. And I was appointed medical registrar to Professor Michael O'Donnell. And at the same time, a registrar in surgery was appointed to the professor of surgery in Galway.
What year was that?
That would be 1956.
66.
66?
No,
Was it?
no, it's 60.
This would be 1956,
Oh, sorry.
I think, 56, 57. 56, 57.
Sorry, yeah.
So I did a year there, and then I applied for a job in England. I got a job in the East End of London in Hackney Hospital, which was a very good general hospital. And they didn't have senior registrar then. I was the registrar who was senior. And I had, there was a junior registrar as well. He had about 40 beds to look after, and I had 120. And we were on duty every second weekend from Thursday night till Monday morning. Every second weekend. and we were on duty every second night otherwise. So that's the year then, during that tenure of office, I got married
Two.
to Ina.
What was her maiden name?
Ina O'Byrne.
I never. Where was she from?
She was a Dubliner.
Dubliner. Okay.
Dubliner originally from Kildare and Wicklow. So then at the end of my 2 years there, I went to Hammersmith, and I did 6 months in Hammersmith, and from then where did I go then? No, I think I've got the orders wrong now. I was in Hammersmith before that for 6 months. But before I went to Highgate, I spent 2 years in Highgate, and from Highgate I applied for a job as senior registrar to Professor Bull in the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast. Professor Bull was a South African white, and he was a very fair man. He hadn't inherited any prejudices that were endemic in Belfast. And out of the blue, and against the current of opinion of philosophy of the Royal Victoria Hospital, he appointed me as his senior registrar. So it was very good. He was one of the best clinicians I ever worked with. He enjoyed medical problems. He enjoyed doing ward rounds where the first thing he would ask you is, have you got something difficult? Let's start with something difficult. That was clinically difficult. He was very much at the bedside interpreter, more like the old physicians of old that gave rise to the Sherlock Holmes character. Deductive, observant, intuitive then comes with it. What he had as well, he had a tremendous memory for patients he'd seen. So he produced his own, as it were, reference book in his head, and could refer back to patients he'd seen had had something like this or something similar. A most stimulating man. But in England and the United Kingdom of England, Wales and Scotland, the senior registrar was appointed for 4 years. So in Belfast, I found out, to my detriment, that you had to be interviewed every year to maintain your post. And when I was interviewed the first year, I wasn't reappointed, and neither was another Catholic in another hospital who was older than I was. He was a Martyr graduate from Dublin. So he couldn't understand this because he was a second-year senior registrar and I was a first year. So he flew to London, interviewed the British Medical Association and asked them what was the rules. And they said, oh, there's only one rule. You're appointed for 4 years and that's it. And by that time you're fit to be a consultant. And he told them what had happened. So the next thing, just when Seamus, our eldest, was born, I got a letter saying, we have reconsidered our decision and you're reappointed to a second-year senior registrar on condition you leave Belfast. So I said, where will I go? They said, we'll decide that later. So I got a letter then saying you're assigned to Lurgan, Portadown. So I arrived in Lurgan, Portadown, left Dinah in the rented house we had, and I arrived in Lurgan, Portadown, and it was a little hospital, smaller than Castlebar, but better equipped at that time better equipped, and it had a pathologist, and it had 2 surgeons, and it had 1 physician and 1 obstetrician. So I went up the first day and I met the physician, and I introduced myself, and he said, I don't know what you're doing here. I never asked for a senior registrar. So I said, well, I'm assigned to you. And he said, well, in that case, you do your ward rounds every day and I'll do mine. We'll meet now and again for discussion. That's it. You'll also run the outpatients. So I did that. I commuted. Ina then left Belfast and went with Seamus, my eldest boy, to her mother in Dublin. And I commuted every second weekend to Dublin and back on the train on Sunday night.
And did relations improve between the 2 of you?
Between...
In Lurgan?
No.
No. Stayed frigid?
He was a very strict unionist Orangeman, who he never verbalized any hostility. He just withdrew completely. You didn't belong to his group, to his thinking, his existence.
You didn't have a few glasses of wine with him at any stage, no?
No, but he was took a done all right himself, but I didn't.